My name is Marlene Carter. I was 31 years old when I first realized that grief, real or manufactured, could be used like a weapon. Before that, I believed grief was sacred, private, something you stepped carefully around like broken glass. I believed people deserved patience when they were hurting, even when that hurt made them difficult, emotional, or unpredictable. That belief is what allowed my sister-in-law, Vanessa Carter, to dismantle our family one gathering at a time. Vanessa lost her first pregnancy 2 years into her marriage with my older brother, Owen. It happened early, before a heartbeat, before an ultrasound photo taped to the fridge, but it devastated her. At least, that's what we all assumed at first. I remember the phone call. Owen's voice was hollow, controlled in the way men get when they're terrified of breaking down completely. She miscarried, he said. Vanessa's not taking it well. None of us expected her to. We showed up with casseroles, with flowers, with quiet voices and lowered expectations. My mother rearranged her work schedule to be available for Vanessa, just in case. My aunts tiptoed around the subject of children entirely. Even family jokes were filtered, softened, edited before they ever left our mouths. At first, Vanessa's grief looked like grief. She cried easily, she slept late, she canceled plans, she spoke about her body like it had betrayed her. All normal, all understandable. But grief, I would later learn, has a rhythm. It comes in waves. It recedes, it flares, it changes shape. Vanessa's grief didn't. It sharpened. If someone questioned her spending, new furniture, expensive skincare, spontaneous weekend trips, she'd press a hand to her stomach and whisper that being interrogated about money felt hostile to her healing. If anyone shared good news, job promotions, engagements, anniversaries, she'd excuse herself mid-conversation, loudly sobbing that other people's happiness was too much for her trauma. Once, when Owen asked if she could help him clean the house before guests arrived, she collapsed onto their leather sectional like she'd been shot, gasping that stress could cause another miscarriage. And Owen backed down every time. We all did. The moment I realized something was wrong was my mother's 65th birthday. We had planned it for months. A catered dinner at the Riverside Country Club, lavender centerpieces, live music, invitations printed and mailed. It was supposed to be elegant, celebratory, a thank you to the woman who had held our family together through decades of quiet sacrifice. 3 days before the event, Vanessa called my mother sobbing. She said lavender reminded her of the nursery she'd planned, that the scent made her dizzy, that the idea of celebrating motherhood, even indirectly, was unbearable. The party was canceled within an hour. Instead of clinking glasses under string lights at the country club, we sat in Vanessa and Owen's Phoenix living room while my mother stroked Vanessa's hair and told her it was okay, that birthdays could wait, that healing couldn't. I watched my mother apologize for wanting to celebrate her own life. That should have been my wake-up call. Thanksgiving was worse. My cousin Rebecca announced her pregnancy halfway through dinner. She stood, hands shaking, smiling through nerves and joy, waiting for applause. Vanessa screamed. She accused us of flaunting fertility, claimed the smell of turkey was triggering her trauma, accused Rebecca of deliberately trying to hurt her. Rebecca left the table in tears. She avoided family gatherings for the rest of her pregnancy. Vanessa never apologized. But the real turning point, the moment grief officially became currency, was the BMW. Vanessa wanted a $75,000 BMW X7. Owen said no, calmly, reasonably. He showed her the budget. 2 days later, she drove herself to a dealership on Mill Avenue and staged a complete breakdown in front of the sales staff. She screamed about needing a safe car for her rainbow baby, threatened divorce, collapsed on the showroom floor. They gave Owen the paperwork just to make it stop. That night, Vanessa posted Instagram stories about treating yourself during grief. Her tears were gone, completely dry. Owen stared at the loan documents like he'd just signed away his spine. And that was when I understood something that made my stomach turn. Vanessa had learned something powerful. Grief made people uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people would give her anything she asked for. She wasn't grieving anymore. She was practicing. And none of us realized we were training her for something much worse. If grief had been Vanessa's rehearsal, my wedding became her main stage. I got engaged the following spring. Owen had proposed to Vanessa years earlier in a carefully choreographed moment with photographers and champagne. My engagement was quieter, intimate, the way I liked it. My boyfriend, now fiancé, Jake Carter, proposed during a sunset walk. No audience, no spectacle, just sincerity. For a brief moment, I thought happiness might be allowed back into our family. I was wrong. The moment Vanessa found out I was planning a June wedding at the Desert Botanical Garden in Scottsdale, her grief pivoted toward me with surgical precision. It started politely, almost friendly. "Oh, that's bold," she said when I mentioned the date. June can be very symbolic for women who've lost pregnancies. I didn't understand what she meant, and she didn't explain. She just smiled sadly, like I'd already failed a test I didn't know I was taking. 2 weeks later, my florist called me, confused and apologetic. "Marlene," she said carefully, "we received a call from a woman claiming to be your sister-in-law. She was very upset about your flower choices." Vanessa had contacted Petals and Stems directly. She told them that peonies were fertility symbols, that I was intentionally choosing flowers to mock women who couldn't conceive, that my wedding would trigger miscarriages in pregnant guests. The florist had never heard anything like it. Neither had I. That was the moment I realized Vanessa wasn't just reacting emotionally. She was intervening. When I confronted her, she cried, softly, convincingly. "I was just trying to protect myself," she said. "I didn't think you'd want to hurt infertile women." That word again. Hurt. Suddenly, my wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a potential crime. Then came the forums. Fake accounts on the Knot, Wedding Wire, Reddit threads I'd never visited, posts claiming I was a baby killer, that I was deliberately planning a fertility-themed wedding to torment my grieving sister-in-law, that I laughed about her miscarriage, that I deserved to be shamed. The messages started pouring in, strangers calling me heartless, cruel, soulless. Vanessa denied everything. "I barely know how to use those sites," she said, dabbing at her eyes. "Why would anyone lie about something like this?" But the posts were detailed, too detailed. They referenced private conversations, moments only she had been present for. When I refused to change my wedding date, she escalated. She called my venues, my photographer, even the church. She claimed my wedding was a pregnancy celebration disguised as a marriage ceremony. She told my grandmother that the stress of my planning had caused her to lose twins. Medically impossible. But grief has a way of suspending logic. Suddenly, my family wasn't congratulating me. They were negotiating with me. My grandmother asked if I could postpone my happiness. My maid of honor wondered aloud if I was being insensitive. Owen begged me to just change a few things. Vanessa attended my dress fittings uninvited, left dramatically when she saw me in white, claimed it reminded her of baby clothes she'd never buy. At my bridal shower, she cried through the games, insisting anything remotely baby-themed was traumatic. By April, I was exhausted. Every vendor meeting felt like a trap. Every family dinner felt like a trial. Vanessa had successfully turned my wedding into a referendum on my morality. And while everyone focused on managing her grief, she was watching me carefully, closely. And she was about to notice something that would change everything. I was 4 months pregnant, and no one knew. No one except Vanessa. At least, that's what I believed at the time. I had worked hard to keep it quiet. Loose dresses, strategic layering, excuses for skipped wine at family dinners. I blamed nausea on food poisoning, fatigue on wedding stress, and my sudden aversion to coffee on anxiety. Jake knew, of course. He was careful in the way only someone deeply in love can be. Subtle hands at my back, quiet check-ins, never drawing attention to my body in public. We agreed we'd tell everyone after the wedding, one joy at a time. What I didn't know was that Vanessa had been watching me like a predator studies prey. She noticed the way I held my stomach when I laughed. The mornings I disappeared into the bathroom. The way my clothes shifted, slowly, incrementally. She cataloged every detail with frightening precision. 3 weeks after my wedding, on a Tuesday morning that started like any other, I learned how closely she'd been paying attention. I had just finished a routine OB/GYN appointment on Camelback Road. The Arizona sun was already punishing, heat radiating off the asphalt as I walked back toward my car, one hand resting instinctively on my abdomen. That's when she appeared. Vanessa stepped out from between 2 parked cars and stopped beside my Honda Civic, as if she'd been waiting there all morning. "I know you're pregnant, Marlene," she said. No tears, no trembling, no performance. This was a version of Vanessa I'd never seen before. Calm, composed, terrifyingly clear-eyed. I tried to laugh, tried to brush it off. "You're imagining things," I said. She raised one hand and I stopped mid-sentence. "Here's what's going to happen," she continued, her voice gentle and precise. "You're going to tell everyone you're carrying a baby for me, as a surrogate. You'll give birth, hand the baby to me, and I'll finally be the mother everyone pities me for not being." The words didn't register at first. They bounced around in my skull like they belonged to someone else's nightmare. "Vanessa," I said finally, my voice barely working. "That's insane. This is my baby." "Not anymore," she replied sweetly. She pulled out her phone. On the screen were drafted emails to my boss at the marketing firm where I worked. Detailed accusations of workplace harassment related to infertility. Claims that I'd mocked her loss, that I'd created a hostile environment. Then texts. Screenshots of conversations that looked like they were between us, except they weren't. They were edited, spliced, manipulated. Real conversations about grocery lists and wedding details, twisted into cruel, fabricated attacks. She'd been building this for weeks, maybe months. "If you refuse," she said calmly, scrolling, "I'll send these to your employer, your neighbors, your church friends, your sorority sisters. I'll tell everyone you announced your pregnancy by calling me barren." My blood went cold. Standing there in the heat, my hand moving instinctively to protect my stomach, I realized something horrible. This wasn't grief. This wasn't hormones. This was strategy. "You can always have another one," Vanessa added, smiling. "But this is my only chance at motherhood. Everyone will understand why I deserve this baby more than you." The parking lot spun. She'd manipulated our family for over a year, training them to see her as fragile, tragic, deserving of accommodation. Now she was ready to cash in. But as terror surged through me, something else surfaced beneath it. Clarity. Vanessa had just shown me exactly how she operated. And if I was going to protect my child, I would have to beat her at her own game. "I need time," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "This is a lot." Her eyes lit up with triumph. "Of course," she said. "Take a few days. But remember, the longer you wait, the harder it'll be to explain why you hid your pregnancy." That night, I lay awake beside Jake, listening to his steady breathing, knowing his sister-in-law had just threatened to steal our unborn child, and I knew I couldn't tell him yet. Not until I had a plan. The next morning, I did something that felt both terrifying and inevitable. I called Owen. He answered on the 3rd ring, breathless, distracted by the background noise of his accounting office in downtown Phoenix. "Hey, Mar," he said. "Everything okay?" I made sure my voice sounded worried, not angry. Fear was safer. Fear was believable. "Can we have lunch?" I asked. "I need to talk to you about something sensitive, about Vanessa, and about me." There was a pause, just long enough for his concern to spike. "Of course," he said. "Where?" We met at the Cheesecake Factory on Camelback Road. Neutral territory. Public. Familiar. The kind of place where difficult conversations could hide behind normalcy. Owen arrived first. When I walked in, I saw confusion on his face shift into alarm the moment he noticed my posture, my hands clasped protectively over my abdomen. We sat. "What's going on?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. "I need you to read these," I said. "All of them." His brow furrowed as he scrolled. I watched his face carefully, the way concern turned to disbelief to something darker. "These are Vanessa's?" he asked. I nodded. "She confronted me yesterday," I said softly. "She knows I'm pregnant. She demanded I give her my baby. She threatened to destroy my career and reputation if I don't." Owen laughed once, sharp, uncertain. "Marlene, she wouldn't." "I know," I said, and then I let myself cry. Not theatrically, not loudly. I broke the way people do when they're genuinely afraid. "She keeps saying it's her only chance," I whispered, "that everyone will understand why she deserves this baby more than I do. I'm scared, Owen. I don't know what she'll do if I say no." That did it. Owen's defenses collapsed under the weight of fear rather than accusation. He leaned closer, eyes scanning the timestamps. "Wait," he said slowly. "These messages, they're from yesterday morning." "Yes." "She was with me," he murmured. "At Scottsdale Quarter. We were shopping for patio furniture. She sent these while we were arguing about throw pillows." The truth hit him like a physical blow. His wife had been plotting to steal his sister's baby while walking beside him through Pottery Barn, debating dinner plans and fabric textures. He sat back, pale. "I need copies of everything," he said finally. "I already sent them to myself," I replied. For 3 days, Owen didn't call me. He didn't confront Vanessa, didn't tip his hand. Instead, he re-examined everything. The canceled birthday party, the BMW, the wedding sabotage, the way family events always revolved around managing Vanessa's emotions. On the 4th day, he called me. His voice was steady, controlled. "I believe you," he said, "and I'm done protecting her." He told me his plan. "I'm going to confront her on Mother's Day," he said. "The whole family will be there. I want everyone to see who she really is." Mother's Day. Vanessa's favorite stage. The irony was almost poetic. Mother's Day arrived with the kind of perfect Phoenix weather that tricks you into believing nothing bad could possibly happen. The sky was impossibly blue, the air warm but gentle. The kind of day Vanessa usually loved, conditions ideal for public emotion, for performative gratitude, for reminding everyone how much she had lost. The entire family gathered at my parents' house in Ahwatukee, the same house where she'd canceled my mother's birthday, the same living room where Rebecca had cried in shame over her pregnancy, the same kitchen where grief had been served like a centerpiece for over a year. I arrived late on purpose. By then, I was 7 months pregnant. There was no hiding it anymore. The moment I stepped inside, conversation stopped. Eyes dropped to my stomach, then widened, then softened. "Oh my God," my aunt whispered. "Marlene." Smiles bloomed, real ones. Unfiltered joy slipped through the cracks Vanessa had trained them to seal. And then Vanessa saw me. Her reaction was immediate. "Oh my God," she gasped loudly, one hand flying to her stomach. "Seeing you like that, it's triggering severe cramping. I think I'm having a panic attack." Classic Vanessa. She stumbled toward the couch, clutching the armrest dramatically. My mother rushed for water. My father suggested I sit in another room. Rebecca looked guilty for smiling. The machine started to move, automatic, rehearsed. But this time, Owen stood up. "Actually," he said clearly, pulling his phone from his pocket, "before anyone goes anywhere, I need to say something." The room went silent. 3 days ago, Vanessa tried to force Marlene to give her our baby, he said. She threatened to destroy her life if she refused. Gasps, confusion, horror. He handed his phone around. Fake emails, fabricated texts, threats laid out in cold, undeniable proof. "She's been planning this for weeks," Owen continued, "creating fake evidence to justify stealing my sister's child." Vanessa froze. For the first time, her face didn't contort into tears. It hardened. My mother stared at the screen, trembling. My father's jaw clenched. Rebecca began to cry, not from guilt this time, but from understanding. Vanessa tried to clutch her stomach again. No one moved. That's when she snapped. "I deserve that baby more than she does," she said sharply. "I've suffered more." The confession sucked the air from the room. She stepped toward me. "That baby should be mine," she screamed. Then she grabbed the knife. Time fractured. Rebecca yanked me backward. Owen lunged forward. My father seized Vanessa's wrist. My mother, usually gentle to a fault, slapped her so hard she fell. Even as they restrained her, Vanessa wailed about grief, about betrayal, about trauma. The police arrived minutes later. As they led her away in handcuffs, Vanessa wasn't crying. She was furious. And the mask was gone. The aftermath unfolded the way disasters always do. Quietly at first, then all at once. Vanessa was charged with assault with a deadly weapon against a pregnant woman. The phrase itself felt unreal, like something pulled from a crime show rather than my own life. Owen filed for divorce within a week. No hesitation, no grand speeches. Just paperwork and a silence that said everything words couldn't. During the investigation, the full scope of Vanessa's planning came to light. Detectives found folders on her laptop labeled with my name. Draft timelines, notes about public sympathy windows, research on emergency custody cases and surrogate disputes, screenshots cataloged by date and context, ready to be edited and deployed the moment she needed them. She hadn't snapped. She had prepared. At trial, Vanessa cried. Of course she did. Her defense attorney leaned hard into the narrative she'd perfected. Grief-induced psychosis, hormonal instability, trauma from miscarriage. Vanessa testified tearfully about her longing for motherhood, about how watching other women succeed had broken something inside her. Even facing prison time, she was still performing. But this time, it didn't work. The judge looked at the evidence for a long time before speaking. This was not a moment of emotional collapse, he said. This was months of calculated psychological abuse, followed by an act of violence. Vanessa received 2 years of probation, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, a permanent restraining order, and was barred from contacting anyone in our family. She was also ordered to pay restitution for therapy costs, mine, Owen's, my parents. For the first time, her actions had consequences that couldn't be cried away. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Vanessa moved to Tucson. She found a new boyfriend within weeks. Mutual friends later told me she'd already begun telling his family about her tragic miscarriage and her cruel ex-husband's family who had abandoned her during grief. Same story. New audience. That was when I understood the truth completely. Vanessa had never been grieving. She had been hunting. My son was born on a crisp October morning, healthy and perfect. The kind of baby that makes a room go quiet with awe. Owen held his nephew with tears in his eyes. Real tears, not the performative kind. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I protected her instead of you." I forgave him because families can be manipulated, confused, turned against themselves. But real love has weight, and eventually it breaks through lies. As for Vanessa, I heard her new relationship ended abruptly when someone Googled her name and found court records. Apparently, it's harder to maintain a victim narrative when the truth is public. Vanessa lost her marriage, her family, her reputation. For the first time in years, she had something real to grieve. And this time, it was entirely her own fault.